This is a presentation comparison React versus Angular framework. Based on my experience, you will learn what are the pros and cons of using those frameworks and libraries, and other recommendations. So let's start with React. React is a library built by Facebook. Facebook also uses React internally, so it will be maintained and continuously improved. It was initially released in 2013. Facebook uses React extensively in their products like Facebook app, Instagram, WhatsApp. The current stable version is 17.x, released in October 2020, with a smaller incremental updates since then. The official site of React is reactjs.org. There are some other popular brands backing the React. It's Airbnb, Uber, Netflix, Dropbox. Angular is a framework developed by Google. Google also uses Angular internally, therefore it will be maintained and continuously improved. It was first released in 2010, making it the oldest of the lot. It's a TypeScript-based JavaScript framework. A substantial shift occurred in 2016 on the release of Angular 2 and the dropping of the JS from the original name AngularJS. Angular 2 Plus is known also as just Angular, although AngularJS version 1 still gets updates. We will focus the discussion on Angular. The latest stable version is Angular 13, which was released in December 2021. Official site angular.io. So Angular gets supported by other brands. As we know, Google uses Angular in many of its own internal products like Gmail, YouTube, and many more. Also, companies like Nike, HBO, Forbes, General Motors, Upwork, and Sony use Angular for their products as well. Let's see main differences of React and Angular. The Angular is a full-fledged framework and offers strong opinion on how your application should be structured, and has many small libraries built in that helps you build complex application. And React is a library, only cares about Vue on MVC architecture, need Flux to implement this architecture, but gives you more freedom the way you want to organize the code. Then data binding. So Angular uses two-way data binding, meaning that if we change the input in the UI, it will change the model state and vice versa. It's also possible to utilize just one-way data binding in Angular. React utilizes one-way data binding, meaning that an UI element cannot change the state of a component. Next, language. Angular uses TypeScript. It's a superset of JavaScript and statically typed language. And React uses JavaScript XML, JSX. It can be written in TypeScript as well, but not included natively. Next, UI components. So Angular uses integrated material design components. Angular provides various material design components, allowing an easy UI configuration. And React utilizes Material UI library and dependencies. So it uses UI tools that developed by community and offers a huge variety of UI components. Next, dependency injection. Angular supports dependency injection, which allows it to have distinct life cycles for different stores. And React does not entirely support dependency injection. React has a global state for all the components. Next, DOM. Angular utilizes incremental DOM, which when creating the new DOM, it will compare with the previous one and apply the differences to the real DOM, only allocating memory if necessary. And React utilizes virtual DOM. Whenever the DOM changes, it will create a new virtual DOM, compare with previous one, and only modify the real DOM where it differs. Next, learning curve. Angular harder to learn, has a lot of concepts and syntax to learn. React easy to learn, not as difficult since it has all the components code in the same file. Next, performance. Angular slightly slower, performs the real DOM and bidirectional data binding process make Angular's performance slower than React. However, it may change with the addition and improvement of Ivy and new technology. React has faster performance due to the virtual DOM trees do not overload the browser, plus the unidirectional data binding process reduces the workload. Next, tools. Angular does not require additional libraries, integrates several functions, but can use NGRX and RxJS. And React more dependent on state management libraries such as Helmet, Redux, and React Router can optimize the state management processes, the interaction with the API and routing. Next, testing and debugging. Angular uses the testing and debugging for a complete project. It's possible with a single tool. And React requires a set of tools to perform different types of testing. So as we can see, Angular out of the box includes support for a lot of things. It helps you with controlling the UI, reacting to user input, validating user input in forms, routing, state management, sending AJAX HTTP requests, providing offline support, PWA capabilities, testing, building your application, managing multiple applications, connecting them, and much more. And React is different, where Angular gives you everything. React gives you only one thing, a library for rendering content to the DOM and controlling it efficiently thereafter. It's also all about components and all about building user interfaces from components. It also gives you all the tools you need to define what should be rendered, in which way, under which circumstance. Let's take a look for a moment to the competitors' documentation. I have both the React and Angular documentation open here. So it's an Angular IO and reactjs.org. And as we can see, both of them are very well documented, and Angular goes way more in depth on the documentation, but that's expected because it's a much larger framework. It's packed with all features and functionalities that you need for the front end, whereas React is just simply works with the user interface. So Angular tries to solve more problems than React. I also found that Angular is much more verbose as it has a more boilerplate code. It's important to note that when searching internet for React and Angular answers, it's always crucial to check for the version and date to which the answers is related to, since there are lots of breaking changes, especially with Angular, and older advices will not apply to the newer versions of Angular.